Hello, everyone, and happy holidays. I always like to think of this as a season of rebirth. And I like to see a lot of renewal going on amongst people about myself and other people. And welcome to the show and welcome, Lori. How are you doing in this beautiful season?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. It was really extraordinary. I had an incredible time down in the Pyrenees for a joyeuse Noël, and I'm back now, home. It was beautiful.
Did you learn anything about yourself?
Well, I have to admit, I had a really bizarre experience. I go to my friend's farm, which is literally in the middle of nowhere in the Pyrenees. And one night, my friend had gone to bed, and it was around 11:30 at night. And down there, we're remote. There's no lights, no nothing except the starlight. And I opened the window because it was quite hot from the wood stove burning. And all of a sudden, I see out in the field these it was absolutely bizarre. It was like a football field of red lights. And then
Wow.
they faded, and then they came back and they were light blue. Then they faded, they came back and they were green, but they were all different designs. And
Wow.
my brain was just like going, this is too absolutely bizarre. What am I experiencing? What is this?
Did you get a
Multi-dimensional.
lift inside? Did you get kind of a flush of ecstasy or
I was mesmerized by what I was seeing, and all I couldn't understand it. And
Mhm.
I'm sure MIRICRIS or you have an idea. I'm sure it was a multi-dimensional experience.
It was a visitation for sure, and it varied. I wasn't there with Lori, but I see a lot of things, and it's view. The view from my where I'm sitting is that it was moving, and the colors were moving through. Is that right? They were amazing um, frequencies of light and color.
Yeah, and it was thousands of light bulbs, thousands of Christmas lights. In the field
Hmm.
doing these designs. Just
Wow.
just
So
wild.
did it actually look like Christmas lights?
The red did. The red was a very defined
Like a little
pattern.
bulb? Hmm.
Yeah, but it was so far away I couldn't see, the lights.
So tell
But
us, Lori, how did it make you feel?
um, super inquisitive, super glued, super questioning. At one point, I got up and I turned away and I shook my head. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I walked around the room, and I came back and it was there, still doing its
Wow.
fade in and fade out.
Wow.
Very because it's work that, anyways, it was a gift. That's how I felt about it.
It's kind of
Because
like seeing his crop circles and that sort of thing in the sense of it.
yeah, in
Yeah.
in these fields,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And
But
guidance is saying it's from just different levels of consciousness coming through. And they were
yeah,
literally interacting with the society there. They were interacting for a while, apparently laying down some, it's like laying rubber, laying
huh,
down some really wonderful frequency patterning. And then they disappeared, but they're going to come again, and you'll see them a number of times.
wow, there or here?
Probably where you, I don't know. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. There's no
hopefully
time and place, and
I,
in a lot of these things.
yeah.
And, with things like crop circles, they just show up where they do, and you never quite know. Although
Hmm.
anyway, I don't want to get into that right now. But what we'd like to do is speak with MIRICRIS, and maybe MIRICRIS will have something to say about that. And
Right.
MIRICRIS would like to talk to those of you who tune into this series of shows that we're doing and subscribe. That's wonderful. We're honored by that as well.
Yeah, and we have lots of new subscribers, and thank you everybody. It's been an amazing growth spurt, and we love having Veronica back, and I think everybody is really appreciative about that. So
And
thank
I'm
you.
appreciative. But also, MIRICRIS is really delighted. You know that.
Well, it's been such an outlet for Merry Christmas.
So we're going to call in MIRICRIS. These are beings of frequency beings that I have brought through for a number of years now, but we're taking them more, we're putting them to work more these days. So that's everyone. Clear your space just for a moment while we call in MIRICRIS. And reach up with your minds as a sculpting tool and draw down the golden frequencies from the infinity plus one. And we do that to raise the fields and frequencies through your body as well as throughout the environment. And MIRICRIS has been standing by, and they're very eager to come in and speak with you. Mm-hmm. And answer questions for Lori. There we go. We are here. We are here. We are messengers of love and also determined transformation. Your species is undergoing a tremendous transformative activity, although many are not quite adept at it. Many feel nervous about the changes going on in their thinking or the thinking and feeling in some of the people around them. And we smile at that because down the road, when they look back, they'll be very pleased, you see. So, how would you like to address this artful communication we're going to have with you today?
Mary Chris, I've been thinking a lot about souls and karmic connections. And how, I know a lot of people wonder this as well. How can we break from a karmic connection or a soul when there's trauma, abuse, or damage?
We'll say several things about that. There's no one simple answer because each of you, everyone listening to this, or everyone experiencing this, just like we are, you're a combination of reactions and responses. You know that. And that in your past lives, when you're talking about karma, your past lives have left. Well, let's just keep it at this life for a moment. In this life, when people have tremendous trauma in childhood, that trauma is, we won't recommend it. We assure you of that. But that trauma is, in a way, a gift because extricating yourself from the trauma and really find out what is truly you, which is a very deepening you, has been a great healing for many, many people. And you hear a lot of YouTubes or a lot of presentations of people saying, oh, I had this terrible trauma and I became, as a result, and the searches that I went through, I became a teacher, an intuitive, healer of all kinds, et cetera, et cetera. You know, many, many stories like this. So by the same token, when you've got trauma that is karma, that leaves you with patterns of behavior and reaction and attraction, because many times people are bonded because of the karma that they shared. And that can be for good or ill. The karma that they shared can make them hate each other, or it can actually make them understand each other. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about consciousness. We're talking about the awareness in the person who's suffering in the karmic relationship to drop inside and identify which parts, which are the difficult structural parts of the relationship that this person can identify or both people can identify. We also say that karma can be a bonding or unifying of huge groups of people, societies, cultures, and so on. Sounds like it's a big wash, but it is not. It's a very difficult thing because even though you can see outside the bounds of the karma and you can begin to identify your karma, They say, oh, this person feels karmic to me, which usually means there's a tremendous pull and a relentless drive into perhaps abuse or addiction or um, a refusal to find your way out of a difficult situation of any kind. We can recognize, or you can recognize that as karma, but to actually extricate yourself is a very, very finely tuned process. It's a finely tuned process of picking your feelings out of what is like a mesh. Understand? It takes a lot of consciousness and a lot of diligence. But the other thing, returning to the beautiful light that you saw in the Pyrenees at Christmas time, the interesting thing is that the frequencies are in your favor, which means that when the frequencies are raised, you can move through what we called the mesh with more ease and with more success. Can you understand that? So if you have a tremendous focus, conscious focus of frequencies moving through your body, you can very often separate yourself entirely from the heavier, stickier evidence of karma that's in your psyche and in your soul's journey. That's probably enough, because if we go on and we go into the soul's journey and the soul path of huge societies and so on, it gets a little more intricate, doesn't it? Because it feels so impossible to extricate oneself from it. Is that a good beginning, Lori?
Yeah, no, thank you. And sorry. I think it may be helpful for um, people to hear. Are there any tools, MIRICRIS, that you can give people for extricating themselves? Something that more practical, concrete from a karmic
Yes. We'll see what we
situation?
can do, because some people are, one of this one has been studying a lot about consciousness. Well, some people are conscious of their own body mind, conscious of the bladder, conscious of the knee, conscious of the heart, conscious. Do you understand all this awareness and being conscious of the subtle energies? And then learning more and more about that. So you're with someone and you think you're wildly in love, but the point is you keep getting either abused or restricted or mocked or chained down or whatever. And for you to become conscious of which parts of your body mind are talking to you, the weight of which, the weight is a big giveaway, the weight at which it hangs on your stomach or your belly or your throat. The throat is a great place to gather karmic information because it chokes you up and you can't really express yourself very well. So we're suggesting the most simplistic thing to do is sit with yourself, because if you sit with the other person, you'll very often be emanating back and forth the same frequencies that are asking for resolution. The frequencies really want resolution of karma, as you know. That means they want, you've been hurt and they want you to heal yourself, to find your way out of it. So sometimes the relationships are put together in order to put you in a position where you have to heal, you see? And then I return to you here and say, it's very interesting to sit with whatever's pulling on you when you're in a conscious, when you're in a relationship, which you begin to realize is very karmic. You'll even notice your face changes when you're with certain people. And that's very karmic too. It's like you're made of the same cloth. So going back to that, we're saying sit with yourself and pay attention to any kind of physical reactions in your, it could be emotional as well, but sometimes the physical is quicker to deal with. You go into your body and notice whenever I talk to Lily Bell or whoever it is, Bob, the energy pulls this way or that. It pulls on the back of my sinuses, it pulls in my eyes, it pulls in my throat, whatever. And when you can sit in that and you can actually melt that, you can dispense with it, you'll find yourself, if you can do it enough, and you'll know what I mean, but enough means, oh, I see that Lulu Bell, whatever I call her. Oh, whenever she's around, I feel this way. Oh, and now I don't, because I've reached in with my mind as its brilliant little sculpting tool and plucked those frequencies out of my body or out of my liver or out of my breast. But you know when you've done it, you will know when you've succeeded, because some people report going, phew, it's changed. Something's changed. And you can look at that same person and go, hi, let's just be friends. You can do that really easily. The karmic problem is the pulling, pushing, and sticky part. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And each of you has full capacity to pull yourself a part of it. But most people are not conscious of it. You understand the problem? What you're not conscious of becomes a big stick in the wheels of your evolution in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then so once let's say we're working with it consciously and we decide to,
We'll
like you say,
suggest you play with it consciously too, because that'll help you lighten up as you do it.
right. And so we change the energy, we change the program, we change the expression. Maybe we're just friends, we're not in a romantic relationship. I'm
When we
wondering,
suggested that you would say, oh, we can be friends, it's because you'll feel a detachment at a level that you couldn't before. You'll
exactly.
feel it like something goes snap, you see?
So, so will we end up in another life karmically, even though we've done lots of healing on our own? Do we continue? And I know, I think I'm asking this question as if one person, I'm sorry, MIRICRIS. I'm asking the question as if it wasn't a a mutual departure. I'm
Oh,
asking the question
that's
as
a
if
very good question,
one
Lori.
person has resolved and another person hasn't.
It's a very good question because we would say one person will be free as a bird and not feel the attachment or attraction, and the other person will seek it out. And we're saying to you that you can also, oh, one moment. Okay, we're saying there's a little group of us here, so we're having a little confab, as you understand. And one thing is that when one is, we'll call it healed, when one is separated and quite well, the other person might still be seeking for the connection. And you can take your mind as a sculpting tool, don't ever forget that image, and re-sculpt the way the energies flow, not just between you, but for that person as well. You see, you want to do it because any of you working with karma is attracted to that person. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this pickle. And if you can allow yourself to have felt the attraction and then you send back a loving, separating force, their frequencies can literally um, mm, kind of melt, is a good way to put it. They can
Mhm.
be modified by you. Not that you're taking away their life. It's more like, why would they want to live into more karmic stuff? You want to send back a message of freedom for them as well as you. Always
Mhm.
pray for the other person as well as yourself. You'll find that very healing for yourself. And you might
And
meet them in another place. You might sit on a cloud together and chuckle at how bizarre it was.
so that's the question. Will we be resuming in the future lives together?
Not necessarily, although some of you will, and some of you will because it's joyful and you won't feel that pull. You might not even realize that that's Lulu Bell or whoever. you might not even recognize that. What you will recognize is the light part that you connected with. Do you see what I mean? Because you
Mm-hmm.
connected with that person because you knew something. You knew that you could share something. Well, that doesn't have to go away, does it?
Right, but if it's still stressed,
No, no,
it
we're speaking
sounds
of reducing the stress, making sure you've made that thing, and you don't have to revisit those people. If you revisit it and there's still stress, you'll still work with the stress. You bring up the feelings, release the feelings.
okay.
But we're not saying that you're compelled to connect with them. You will or you won't. But when you're not in a karmic situation, the levels of choice are very much freer, you see?
Right. Okay. That's, I
And
understand.
ultimately we're reminding you of something that I'm being reminded of at this point, which is that the reason you got together in the first place is because of attraction. So if there's still attraction, but it's at a much higher level, that's fine. You won't see it
Hmm.
as a problem. You won't feel it as a problem.
Hmm.
And it won't stop your growth, which is part of the question you're asking.
Hmm.
As a soul, it will not stop your growth as a soul. You'll be morphing into a totally different being. In fact,
Hmm.
releasing karma is that, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
morphing into the real person, the real soul, at least as far as that particular recording in the soul
Hmm.
was. You unhook all
Hmm.
that.
So, in terms of the idea of a tribe, which is family and friends, and I know this is hard to get to an exact percentage, but just to give kind of an idea of what, if we were to say, what percentage of family and friends have we been with before in our
It's a
tribe
very interesting question, Lori.
in this life?
Oh, in this life?
Yeah, well, it gets more complex, doesn't it? Because now there's even the future lives together.
But what we're talking about, Lori, I believe that what you're speaking about or what you're inquiring about is the nature of who we are does not have to maintain that nature through thousands of lives. We're wanting to teach you how to unhook. You see, a lot of the nature of who you are is how you hook up. Now, human beings don't like to admit that, but it's essentially a way of magnetizing to one another. And you can do it with race. You can do it with, well, we don't need to go into all that. That will take all our time. However, where were we going with this? You're
So it's,
not, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say now, if present, what percentage of our family and friends have we been with before?
All right. In your case, probably, probably, we're getting a number like 80%.
Wow.
And that's pretty high for you. Part of you goes, I don't want it to be that high, but it is.
Hmm.
And the good thing about that is that you've got some of the same energy problems, which can be a way to solve problems, as you know.
Hmm.
Find somebody who understands your energy problems and really feels it and wants that change as well. You can make big changes. But
Right.
regarding being in a family dynasty for a long time, many, many generations, it can get
Hmm.
really complicated or it could get very refined.
Ah.
You can, one thing we'd like to add here, some might really be confused by this, but this universes are speeding up. Time is speeding up. The vibration of humanity is speeding up. The cellular vibrations are speeding up. Do you understand what we're saying? So there
Hmm.
are many ways in which, excuse me, a tribe of people facing this absolutely amazing number of speed ups going on deep within is going to have a much different jostling than it would have happened before. You see, it's
Mm.
an infinite supply of change. if you want to look at it that way. And your
Interesting.
initial conversation is started with wanting to know how hooked up we are. And we're trying to give you tools for unhooking. But we also remind you that you can eventually just glide through those connections.
Mhm.
And you'll want to glide through them because you see why? Because you are in progress and
Mhm.
they are in progress. And karma kind of sticks the progress, doesn't it, at times? And you end up
Mhm.
going back and forth around the same problems. Sometimes because you happen to be aligned, even though it makes you crazy, you'll find that both of you or all of you smooth out and maybe wander off in your own directions because you're not all hooked up anymore.
Mm.
Oh, we're saying something funny. This one thinks it's funny that karma is an addiction. We have to admit that we haven't called it that before. However, this one likes to play. So we're doing that. But you understand why the metaphor.
Yes, yes.
Does
And
that answer your question? You don't have to
yeah,
worry about being connected.
no, 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 no. I'm asking on behalf of other people as well. Um, and lastly, because this is going to be a little bit shorter tonight because we're moving on to predictions later in our next video. But lastly, romantic love. Why is it difficult for some people not to find romantic love even when they are looking?
Uh, there's a certain, it's just a moment, please. I want to be careful not to say it in a way that is limiting most people. But you have one moment. Sorry,
Mhm.
you have a predilection or an artfulness about this and that and so on, and it just is that kind of a vibration that you have um, the art of melding with someone with the highest regard going through. And also, people who share romantic love are also people who grow through their experiences with grace and elegance. Not everyone has a grace. Did you notice that? And not everyone has elegance. Many people learn elegance as they go through life, and many people can absorb the qualities of grace as they go through life. And many people can open and free themselves into real love. But for those who are born with it already intact, oh, that's really easier, isn't it? And
Mm.
you can see it. Here's an interesting thing, Lori. You can see it in people's facial features. And that's why sometimes they say, oh, a handsome one, this or that. Um, the facial features and this is another side thing, but the scent of a person's body, many of those things show what the relationship is, the core relationship that person has with romantic love. You could probably use many different subjects as well. But so we see a couple getting together and they both have all the soul experiences or soul choices, or it's not because you're good or bad, although it can appear that way. Um, People just meet each other, and there's a certain proportion of society that has that. And perhaps it's really low. We have to consider this. I'm sending my cohorts here to do a little research for us because
Mm.
I wanted to say 8 to 10% of the population has that capacity. But my beings are going farther, and we'll report back on that.
Mm. And Miracus, well, maybe I need to
Oh, one
reframe it.
more thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, it has a lot to do with the environment and that you're raised in as well, where you don't learn very many defenses. You learn to love, 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 love. And a lot of that can be environmental,
Ah.
right?
So,
Sorry, what were you going
so
to
when
say?
so when somebody's looking for romantic love and they really feel like they're ready, w- you know, I mean, this, I know it's an elementary question in a way, but
Elementary is essential foundation, so that's all right.
why do those doors not open for that person to find that romantic love?
Generally, it's because there's something in them that's very closed, and the soul won't let them have it till they get farther.
Mm,
Because it's not an intellectual decision. It's a decision made on feeling and well, you know, the soul journeying. But many people who say, well, I'm ready, I've been prepared, are not ready. They just don't know any better, you know?
mhm,
And that's not to be pejorative. We're not trying to judge them, just saying many humans don't know themselves yet. Have you ever noticed that?
mhm, mhm,
We would see, I see a couple here, and they are both, this is in response to your question, they are both, what say, charmed by romantic potential and haven't met it yet, male and a female. It doesn't have to be either sex, but we'll pick it just for the obvious kernel of truth that we're used to having for that. And we're saying that they don't meet and they don't connect, or when they do meet, they don't connect. We would say two things. One is that's this life, this lifetime, it's not working. And the other part of it is she or he is shut down when it comes to extreme vulnerability and interaction with the spirit self, not so much the soul self, but the spirit self. And it's very
mhm,
difficult for humans to find their own uh, reaction to spirits, to their own spirit self. It's a
mhm,
whole other discussion, isn't it, Lori?
mhm, absolutely. Um, Mayor Chris, I'm thinking we should probably move on to predictions that we were going to do in a different video. So, shall we
Would you
say
like us to sign off for now and tune in?
yes? Yes,
I want
tune
to
in.
say thank you to everyone who is listening and responding. And we would love to get some of the feedback uh, from you if you feel like it. And there will be a link at the end of this discussion for you to put in your mm, golden coins worth.
Thanks,
Many,
everybody.
thank you, everyone, and many, many blessings to all of us.
See you soon.